Got three big questions. Mike Tannenbaum, I'll stop with you. Will anyone stop the Chiefs from a three-peat in the NFL?
Yes, it's the Green Bay Packers, and it starts this week, Friday, in Brazil. It's led by this guy right here, Jordan Love, who's going to be the MVP. He ended the season unbelievably greening, 18-1, goes to the playoffs, puts up 40 against Dallas, narrowly loses to San Francisco. They get over the hump this year, go to the Super Bowl, and beat the Chiefs.
We have the same prediction, actually. Jordan Love and the Packers to win the NFC and him to be the MVP. Jeff, let's stay in that game. Jeff Darlington, will the Eagles fly or fall after last season's collapse?
By the way, you and Tannenbaum are both nuts on that one. But let's talk about the Eagles, because I think they're like one of those really big birds that has trouble getting off the ground, but eventually flaps their wings hard enough and just above the tree line. They will fly. They will fly. They will perform the miracle of flight. They will just do so in a manner that makes us still wonder, are they last year's team at the end of the season, or are they that one that made it to the Super Bowl? They got to get their confidence. They got to get their chemistry. They got to find a way to fly a little bit higher.
We'll start to find out. That's a really fascinating Friday night week one opener, Green Bay and Philadelphia. All right, Swagu, let's talk about your Cowboys. We had all this drama, the offseason, Dak, all the rest of that. We are moving on from that today. We are officially turning the corner to the season on this program. Will all these things, so here's the question, will all of this derail their season? They got a season to play here before anything gets worked out with their quarterback or anybody else. Will all the nonsense that has swirled around them, will it derail their season?
No, it won't derail their season, because we determine great seasons by going to the playoffs and possibly winning a championship. They're not going to do that anyway. Make the playoffs, they should. Gee, remember you used that term scorched earth with Aaron Rodgers a few years ago? I think that'll be Dak Prescott. I think Dak Prescott will play pissed off great football this year. The weapons we talked about, CeeDee Lamb is back in the fold. Obviously, it ain't the best offensive skill position group in the NFL, but he does have a receiver and a tight end and Jake Ferguson, who I think is going to be really good. The backfield of Dalvin Cook and obviously Ezekiel Elliott. Hopefully they can do that by committee. But this is about Dak Prescott individually. Last year I said Dak Prescott is going to have to play at a certain level for Dallas to be a good team and have a chance to go win a championship. He actually played at an MVP level last year during the regular season. To me, Dak he's had a kid. He's unfiltered. He's not worried about what's being said. He's tired of hearing certain things that are being said by ownership and people around the organization. I think Dak goes play as free as he possibly can this year, and he has a really good season. And then he walks the dog and goes somewhere else and gets $60 million.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you just mentioned that running back room may be the best in the entire NFL. If this was 2019, the running backs are Ezekiel Elliott and Dalvin Cook. I mean, what are we doing here, people? Jeff, you have throughout this summer expressed more confidence in the Cowboys season than most people. You like them more than most people that I've talked to have.
I do. I mean, I think part of it, too, is that we've talked all offseason about the drama of potentially not having Dak and CeeDee and Micah Parsons. Well, guess what? All three are going to be there week one. So to me, this is, I understand there are differences from last year. I get all that. But I just remember a team midway through the season, and I know, again, I have to put out a caveat here, midway through the season doesn't win you Super Bowls, but they were playing at such a high level on offense. They did fail in the postseason. Nothing really matters until we get to the postseason. But I still think that this team is very, very capable of winning the division, of getting into the dance, and then exercising the demons. There's a lot of meat there. I just think that this is still a very good team.
They're a 2.5-point underdog Sunday at Cleveland. What do you think?
They're going to win the game. I agree with Swagu. For all the angst of the Dak Prescott situation, he's going to play great. He has 60 million reasons why. And by the way, Deshaun Watson's played in 12 games as a Cleveland Brown in 2 years.
Yeah. I mean, the Browns have a lot more offensive questions, but they had arguably the best defense in the entire NFL last year. That is one of several fascinating opening games. Let's go. Who you got?
I got the Jets, and I'm not just doing it to kiss the host's butt. This is about the fact that I believe that they will be exercising some demons from last year. This game means so much to the Jets. I believe this is their Super Bowl. The problem with that is I also believe that the 49ers will ultimately be in the real Super Bowl. But for now, Greeny, for now, this is your week.
I'll settle for just no one important getting hurt. Honestly, I'll take that. Mike T, Steelers, Falcons, Sunday. Who you got?
I got the Pittsburgh Steelers winning the game. You know, all offseason we talked about what the Steelers can't do, but how about what they can do? They can run the ball and they can rush the passer. Where does Atlanta struggle? Their rush defense, and I think their tackles are going to struggle with Highsmith and TJ Watt. Look for Arthur Smith to get a game ball in the Steeler locker room after this game.
Yeah, that's a revenge game in a big way for the former Atlanta coach. Swagu, Packers, Eagles, Friday night in Brazil. Who you got?
I'm taking the Eagles, man. Listen, I think the Eagles are going on a revenge tour. Last year was more about their culture, not the players. We know how good this football team is. This roster is still really, really good. And you add Saquon Barkley to the mix. They just need to get back to doing what Jalen Hurts does at a high level and finding that identity for this football team. And I think the Philadelphia Eagles will be squarely in the hunt to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl at the end of the year.
All right, so I sort of do too. But let's dive into that one a minute here. Let's stop down on that one because a huge part of the culture, of the successful culture of the Eagles over the last decade or so is going to be sitting next to you on Monday nights, Marcus Spears, right? I mean, that Jason Kelce no longer there. So here's the question I came up with this morning. On Friday night, when we all sit down to watch this game, what will you, as a former player, Marcus, be looking for that will tell you, yeah, whatever was going so wrong late last season has been fixed? Can we see that in the opening game? And if so, what is it we're looking for that will tell us that?
Gee, you ask great questions all the time, but that's a great question. One, demeanor, right? The energy and the juice from this football team. The command that Jalen Hurts will have when there's pressure being brought to him offensively. They struggled with that last year. Identity-wise, will they get back to RPO and creating those advantages that they were able to create 2 seasons ago, now that you have a dynamic runner in Saquon Barkley back there with Jalen Hurts as well? And miss me with this, well, we want Jalen Hurts to be a drop-back guy, and we want to continue to progress. We want to keep him out of harm's way. We absolutely do. But what makes you almost indefensible is the fact that you have both of those guys now in the backfield, and teams have to respect that. I want to see identity. I want to see a physical nature of football at the offensive line of scrimmage like we saw them do. I'm not talking about just the tush-push play. There was a lot of space created for this football team as well. But the first thing I want to see is this team having a good time playing football. And I can't wait until I talk to Jason on Monday, because I know we're going to talk about the Philly game that's happening Friday in Brazil. Will these guys get back to that energy that we saw 2 years ago, playing for each other, enjoying the game? You have sideline spats every season. I'm not worried about that. But will there be an identity offensively, and will they enjoy playing the game? Last year on the sideline during that downfall, it looked like no one wanted to be there. I want to see a difference in that this year.
Jeff, what have you heard out of their camp? What sense are you getting? They have the new coordinators, the new piece, obviously, in Saquon. What have you heard out of there?
Yeah, this is the most important game of week 1. And I say that because of what I heard out of there. This team has to get their chemistry back. They have been working all offseason on that. Nick Sirianni knows he has to get more out of Jalen Hurts in terms of locker room leadership, and Sirianni himself knows he needs to get more leadership out of himself within this locker room. This team went through an epic collapse last year. We can talk about the Chiefs and the Ravens and how much that game means to the rest of the season. Forget it. Both those teams are going to be alive and well at the end of the regular season. This is the game, to Marcus's point, where you are setting momentum in place. You are changing the dynamic and the narrative about the rest of the season. To me, this is the most important game of the NFL season for week 1.
What do you think, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to go the other side of the ball. I think an indice of how they are on defense is how they rally to the ball, and if they tackle, you know, when you see a lot of hats going to the ball carrier. Last night was a good example of that. USC with Dan Lynn sort of revamped their defense, and we have to see that from that side of the ball. And to me, that's about effort. Rex Ryan talked about that all the time. And by the way, on offense, I was fortunate to be around Mike Pouncey, Nick Mangold, Kevin Mawai. Centers can erase a lot of problems. I think they're going to be okay, but Jason Kelce's presence was really something very, I think, was
it
taken for
mattered,
granted
for sure.
what he's able to do.
Yeah, I mean, the names on the backs of the jerseys of those offensive linemen suggest they should still be a very good group. That should be a good offensive line. I'm with you, Jeff. It is the most interesting game because some of us, including the two of us sitting here, love Green Bay this year, and the Eagles are one of the more interesting teams in the league.